Hello there and welcome once again to yet another episode of your favorite cultural bulletin, Colours of India. I am Soumya Balakrishnan. We begin by taking a quick look at the main stories this evening. An electrifying evening, fine tunes of Baroque, followed by exquisite world cuisine. When our classical tunes meet classical moves and Spanish grooves, an electrifying evening is the result. Our very first story this week.
The air was sweet with the scent of the Rajniganha flower, and the ambience was set for Caravan-e-Ghazal and ICCR initiative. Begum Salma Ansari felicitated the three women performers, classical vocalist Dr. Shoma Ghosh, Kathak dancer Molina Singh, and fusion singer Karlita Mohini. The event with all women performers focused on their individual artistic powers, combined in a fusion. It started off with the Shiv Tandava by Dr. Shoma, to which Molina delivered a Kathak piece. The song describes Shiva's power and his beauty.
We can't limit culture any longer. I think culture is moving beyond. It's just moving out of doors and windows, and everything's become like it's a global, it's cultural global village now. So that's precisely what ICCR is also doing. We're tapping new talents and new forms of music and art, and bringing them together on the same platform, fusing them.
This was followed by the scintillating performance of Karlita Mohini, an Indo-Latin artist and an electrifying performer. She presented a flamenco number to which Molina danced Kathak. Thereby exploring the similarities between flamenco and Kathak. During the 11th century, as Indian gypsies immigrated towards Spain, moving through Eastern Europe, they carried the culture of Kathak along with them, which on reaching foreign land gradually turned into flamenco.
The gypsies, since they live in this very arid situation, very hot climate, so they cannot stay there in one place. They have to travel just to get some little autumn, little spring, a little thing. So they just travel. Now, when you travel, you need some kind of a movement in your body. So nature gives them that melody, and it becomes raw because they are not kind of civilized. So they are very raw, and so they clear out their heart like the bauls of the minstrels in Bengal, the ghumas of Rajasthan, the garba, from Gujarat. So if you see, they've got a very traveling mind, gypsy mind. You're a free will, free bird. So you keep on traveling. So when you travel and you get into this raw make of music, which then it is like, a propagation.
In a fusion spree, the trio performed on a thumri based on the festival of colors, Holi. To this, Molina's Kathak and Karlita's flamenco were added again. The flamenco here was inspired by the Rajasthani style of Ghumar. The singer began with the Sufi Qawwal, Damadam Mast Kalandar, gradually drifting towards the Holi-inspired Thumri. and fusion gained momentum as Spanish tones mingle with the energetic inputs of Kathak and Thumri.
This kind of fusion definitely brings cultures together. The interchange, the exchange, it becomes you can be more cordial, you can be more nice, the warmth with which we can interact. So definitely fusion is, I guess, the thing in the coming future. It's the thing, definitely.
The show turns towards tango with Carlita performing her famous Bollywood number along with the classical renditions of Alap by Dr. Shoma. The show turns towards tango with Carlita performing some famous Latin numbers along with classical renditions of Alap by Dr. Shoma. The show itself was innovative, aesthetic and culturally rich.
There are uncanny similarities between different cultures and yet they are very unique. So, the world is a diverse place but we have many common grounds. Speaking of common grounds, nostalgia is a particular trend that writers and filmmakers seem to be milking at the moment, and they all share a love for the 80s. The best-selling author of The Zoya Factor and Battle for Bitora, Anuja Chauhan, is back, and this time with Those Pricey Thakur Girls. This HarperCollins book was launched in the capital by Hindi cinema's young star and fashionista Sonam Kapoor.
This is the first modern Indian voice that I found that I really enjoyed, which wasn't boring, which is extremely entertaining.
Ad woman turned writer Anuja Chauhan has carved for herself a niche in the sphere of romantic comedies, a style that she is said to have perfected with this book.
Or bloodthirsty and wild. You can't be both. Poor confused child.
I think Anuja is sparkling. You know, she sparkles on each page. She's funny, like downright laugh out loud funny. At the same time, she catches the nuances of romance, that first crush, the first time you see a guy and fall for him. She manages to capture that innocence of first love in a way that I have not seen people able to do beyond, say, one book or one relationship. She manages to sustain it in very different ways across different themes and different subjects and canvases, and that is quite extraordinary. I mean, she's truly a magical writer.
Set in Delhi in the late 80s, it tells the story of Justice Lakshmi Narayan Thakur's 5 beautiful and alphabetically named daughters,
Each one more beautiful than the other.
which some say bear a striking resemblance to Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice.
I think what happens with Jane Austen is, when you have 5 sisters, then immediately it's like, oh, Jane Austen. Because, and in fact, I tried to make it like, because I know, I grew up in a family, I have 3 elder sisters, right? So for me, a book about sisters comes very naturally. So, and in fact, there are points of differences. I don't want to put everyone out or whatever and say, well, the whole point in Pride and Prejudice is that the girls have to be married off, which is really not the point here as such. And, but yeah, I just take it as a compliment and say thank you.
Whether the book is able to cash in on the nostalgia for the 80s is something that only time will tell. If you'd like to brush up some of those sepia-tinted 80s memory, then Chauhan's book is just what you need. Well, it's now time for us to go on a quick break and I will see you on the other side. Coming up, the dance of the royals and the world on a single platter. Welcome back. On our new segment, The Inside Story, we strive to bring you a detailed and in-depth look of a particular topic. This week, we bring you dance and music of the royals, Baroque.
The Baroque era began in Italy in the early 1600s and lasted till the 18th century, during which it had spread to the rest of Europe. The origin of the word itself has traces of Italians, Portuguese, French, Spanish, and even Latin. The word means an irregular pearl and denotes extravagant and abnormal ornamentation. The Baroque period was highly artistic and luxurious, and the grace and grandeur can be seen in the art, drama, and most definitely the dance.
Baroque dance is very expressive, very theatrical. You have a lot of gestures who express emotions and different rasa, like in Indian dance. So I think we are quite near to Kathak, especially to Kathak, because it's the same period when Kathak was developed at the Mughal time. So we have same tradition and same sensibility. For this, I think it's very interesting for Indian people to see how this was in Europe in this time.
King Louis XIV of France further developed the Baroque dance style during his reign in the 1600s. His enthusiasm and interest for the dance led to its popularity across Europe. And Delhiites got a glimpse of the Cracovia danza at Indo-European Dance Festival. They presented Baroque dance while combining it with Polish dance and theatrical elements.
Every dance is, like image of every culture. See, even costumes. When you look Polish costume, you can say, okay, there is very cold country. If you see Indian dance, you can see, okay, there is very hot country. They haven't shoes, they haven't boots, they haven't, this very heavy costume. So already, if you can see costumes, you can recognize little bit Oriental touch, because Poland in this time, this was very, very big country, and we had border with Persia, and for this we have this influence, and it's quite exotic. Even in Europe, Polish are very exotic.
Established in 1998 by Romana Agnil, the group is the only dance ensemble in Poland which performs and carries on the court ballet tradition. Their work binds together aspects of art and education, creating an artistic area with hints of the Middle Age and classicism. The Baroque dance style is vigorously musical, with fleet footwork, elaborate movement of the arms, a dramatic system of gesture encompassing a striking range of material. This could be seen in their performance depicting the fight of two men over a single woman, delightfully quirky.
Baroque style of dance has a unique vocabulary of steps and ornaments which later formed the basis of ballet in the 18th century. Thanks to dance enthusiasts, the original flavors of Baroque have also been retained and they continue to live alongside its modern interpretations. Now, music, like art, is an expression of oneself, and jazz is where this expression is seen and heard the loudest.
Robust, flamboyant, and absolutely unpredictable, jazz. Bringing a taste of this to the capital is the jazz quartet from Amsterdam, the Spinifex. Jazz music dates back to the early 20th century, and this style is native to the New Orleans in America. But because of the black slave trade in the 1800s, the style fused with the African rhythms and also gradually received a European touch.
Improvisation is a lot about personal expression of the soloist or of the player who's doing the soloing at that moment. And the band is also improvising but is also accompanying. And we maybe in this band have an approach which is a bit more rock oriented, which also means that this personal expression is less important, and it's more important to have a collective expression.
Improvisation is a fundamental aspect in jazz music, and this could be heard in the tunes of the performing quartet. With the aim of crossing stylistic borders in their music, they club Western contemporary music and non-Western world music, along with anarchic European free improvised music. And all this clashes with tightly structured math metal sounds.
I'm not much into jazz, but the way they're fusing jazz with rock and other genres of music, it's really nice. I would say, it's the transition they go in, from very conventional jazz to heavy metal to sometimes rock. It's totally different. I haven't heard such music before.
The freedom to improvise allows every performer to perform individually in a group. They become free to interpret the tunes according to their will. With Tobias Klein on the alto saxophone, Jasper Stadhouders on the guitar, Gonzalo Almeida on the bass, and Philip Moser on the drums. Spinifex delivered their psychorhythms with extreme dynamics.
Moving from smooth, flowy tunes to ballistic beats, jazz turned out to be a piece of music without any constraints. Well, it is now time for us to go on another short break, so I'll see you on the other side. Up next on Food Trail, we take you to Delhi's first continental eating place. Welcome back. On Food Trail, every week we try to bring you food places or food items that have a history or a story of their own. And this week I'm at Delhi's first ever continental eating place, which has a history that dates back to 1928. Paharganj is one of Asia's biggest markets, where you will find tiny shops with a world hidden inside them. It is also a backpacker's paradise, with facilities that puts a visitor completely at ease. And Hotel Metropolis has been here from the very beginning. A landmark building in these winding streets, and the rooftop cafe is just as well known. Eating out is not getting any cheaper, and one needs to be always on the lookout for great food at reasonable prices and in good environments. Searches like this sometimes brings me to Paharganj, and one such visit brought me here to the rooftop of Metropolis Cafe. The cafe is almost like an oasis in a dry, dusty part of town. Various shades of soothing green, comfortable seating, and an open kitchen are what sets the space apart.
First of all is the atmosphere, because you're in the center of Paraganj, but still you have this beautiful surrounding, and you're a bit in an island, and you just, when you come up here, you feel you're surrounded with like good servants, good food, and a good atmosphere. And having this in Paraganj is already like a very good thing. And then the food over here is, you feel that it's very much taken care of. When you taste it, you feel that they've made it with a lot of joy.
Every year, from the mid-60s to the late 80s, a bus bearing European travelers would come via Istanbul and Iran into India and onwards to Nepal, the Hippie Trail. Prashant's grandfather was one of those first few who set up shops to cater to their needs.
My grandfather came from Himachal was in 1928. Then we had Indian food altogether. Then later stages, we had a continental food when we started up back in 1965. Then was in 1972 when after the Pakistan war. And then we started serving the pasta, which was very new to this country, in fact, new to the nation. So what we used to do, we used to get the pasta from the Turkish people by the road. They used to come by buses, and my dad used to tell them, and they have taught us how to make these pastas and steaks and lasagnas. At that time, Delhi was completely unaware of all these things.
Every year I say, I don't know if I can do it, if I can make it the next year. But I feel wonderful here. And I like Paharganj, I like my hotel, I like the neighborhood. And most of the people have become friends. I feel relaxed, I feel easy. It's quiet after the turbulent movement on Main Bazaar. Right. And I miss the gentleman, the owner, who always used to greet me, and I'm sorry to hear that he's not well.
After so many years in the business, the clientele at Metropolis is today a mix of backpacking Westerners and young working Indians. So if you are looking for home-style Indian cooking or want to experiment with world cuisine, this is the place to be. Vegetarians must absolutely try the spaghetti napolitana, which is a spaghetti dish cooked in creamy tomato sauce with a handful of fresh herbs, and if you want something Indian, opt for the murg parcha, which is cooked in almond paste with cumin and saffron and served with a variety of breads.
So the Continental fare is what Metropolis Rooftop Cafe is known for, which is why I've ordered the chicken alakeef. This is one of their earliest dishes. This dish has a lot of history associated with it as far as this hotel is concerned.
Chicken alakeef is boneless chicken breast pounded and rolled around cold garlic butter with herbs, which is then breaded and fried.
Now the chicken alakeef has these stuffed items inside, and it makes it really tasty. When you cut it open, the whole thing comes together so beautifully. It's almost like a burst of flavors in your mouth, the butter, the herbs. Wow, perfect.
While the story of its origin is still a matter of hot debate in Russia and Ukraine, the Metropolis version is a recipe handed over by a traveler in the late 60s. It is almost the same story when it comes to the lasagna with spinach and zucchini, layers of different flavor handed over by yet another generous traveler.
I love almost everything about this dish. The subtlety of the flavors, because they have the zucchini, the spinach, the lasagna, and of course the tomato sauce. And then look at the colors. You definitely want to dive right in and have almost everything. I am getting greedy.
And for dessert, not a mousse, not a pudding, but a chocolate cake fluffy and light after a filling meal, and yet rich enough to be served with a dollop of vanilla ice cream. Everything about it is perfect.
What is it that makes a special meal extra special? The exquisite dessert that you're served at the end. So here I have a brownie with an overdose of chocolate and vanilla ice cream at this side. So while I go ahead and indulge in this extravaganza, it's time for me to say goodbye to you. I'll see you next week on the same show. Do remember to send in your suggestions and feedbacks onto our Facebook page. Until next week, keep smiling, keep eating. Goodbye and take good care.